Good evening, everyone. This is Sister Shanda with tonight's Bible study lesson. Before we get started, I have a huge surprise for you. Okay? Did you have to wait? Are you ready for the surprise? Okay. Before I share that surprise with you, I want to ask you a question. How did you feel in those seconds when you were waiting for your surprise? Did you feel anxious, excited, nervous, or even mad or angry because you had to wait for your surprise? Okay, well, tonight's lesson is going to focus on when God says to wait on Him. And we are going to discuss the children of Israel and how they waited for how long? 400 years for deliverance. I am going to be reading from Acts 7:17 through 19 from the Message Bible. Do we all have our Bibles? Great. I'm glad you do. So now I want you to turn with me to Acts 7:17 through 19. And I'm going to read those verses for you. Are you ready? Here we go. When the 400 years were nearly up, the time God promised Abraham for deliverance, the population of our people in Egypt had become very large. And there was now a king over Egypt who had never heard of Joseph. He exploited our race mercilessly. He went so far as forcing us to abandon our newborn infants, exposing them to the elements to die a cruel death. So those are our scriptures for tonight, Acts 7:17 through 19. So let's look at these scriptures. What was verse 17 talking about? This verse is discussing Stephen and how he has already covered the promise in his account about Abraham. God promised Abraham that his descendants would one day inherit the land of Canaan. God specifically told Abraham that he would not inherit the land, and Abraham still worshiped God and still led his people. Verse 18, Stephen has already reminded people how Joseph's rejection by his brothers led the Israelites to Egypt, where Joseph was able to provide for their needs. He also reminded them how that stability and protection led to a population boom in the families of the brothers. But Joseph and the Pharaoh he served died, and the new king who didn't know Joseph, he saw the Israelites as a threat, not as the family of Joseph who rescued Egypt from starving. Verse 19. This verse continues discussing the evil things that the new Pharaoh did to the Israelites. Okay? So that was Acts 7:17 through 19. So let's look back at the scriptures that we have discussed. I want you to understand the patience the Israelites and Abraham as they traveled for 400 years to get to the prize guided promise that God gave them. So how does that relate to us today, or how does that relate to you? Think about how this story relates to you and how it relates to waiting. I can tell you, don't get discouraged waiting on good things to happen. If you are patient, like the Israelites and Abraham, which is a blessing. I know you've heard of the saying, patience is a virtue. So if you are patient, and that is a blessing, good things come to those who wait. That is your lesson for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Have a good night.